kept gaining momentum, and by the time we were all ready to say, okay, let's get serious now, who should really be president, he was already being sworn into office. We weren't paying attention. We weren't paying attention!
Okay, I'll be perfectly honest, I am legitimately scared making this video. Like, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this anymore, or just in general. Like, I might honestly get sued for doing this. I mean, look at what happened to Colbert. He's the example. Plus, is South Park still a viable niche for me, especially in a profession that lives and thrives and dies off of risk? I'm scared, guys. Like, I'm really scared, but I have a job to do. Kitty, come on, you haven't talked about South Park in forever, and even since then you've gotten countless requests, so you should do it. Do it! Fine, Catherine, I'll do it. Plus, as a critic, I do need to have a backbone. Even if I'm the lightweight backbone of the V's, I need a backbone nonetheless. Hi, I'm Kitty Monk, and I haven't said this in forever, but I'm here to talk to you about South Park. Or more specifically, their newest episode, Sermon on the Mount, and partially what's been happening behind the scenes. Sorry if I haven't gotten to this yet, like I waited a week to do it. Despite the numerous requests, I've gotten a ton of requests. It was a developing story, so I didn't want to get anything wrong. Or if something did come up, I didn't want to have to make another video so soon, because I have a lot in the chamber. And even then, this is a massive topic that's likely to continue to develop or have more going along with it, so unlike my Justin Roiland videos or my John Redcorn video, I couldn't just give it a quick 15-minute video and call it a day. And also, I have a life to live. I was at GalaxyCon Raleigh with some friends over the weekend, and my flight got cancelled that Sunday, so it was a whole ordeal. Not the con itself. The con itself, even though it was super crowded, was still super awesome. We filmed a lot of great content. I can't wait to get out to you guys, and so did my friends, and I got to check off a teenhood dream of finally meeting Christian Borle. But thunderstorms, American Airlines, and LaGuardia Airport are not a good combo. I'm sorry, I'm stalling, and you will soon see why. Now, before I reviewed South Park, I was primarily known for reviewing the Disney YA cartoons and the Helliverse. Think like Gravity Falls, Star vs. the Forces of Evil, The Owl House, stuff like that. South Park is sort of what I was known for. Like, it catapulted me to the top and made me realize YouTube wasn't just a funny hobby, it's something that could actually be viable for me. And it kind of moved me to a new niche, one that I do to this day, adult cartoons. And all because I talked about a controversial issue, aka how South Park portrays disabled people and how, oddly enough, it's some of the most endearing disability rep on television. Like, I'm not even kidding. And I didn't even do it to, like, alert the public. It was just an assignment for school. And I'm grateful for that. Both for you guys as fans, and because you let me talk about a show that was near and dear to my heart for years. But yeah, South Park quickly became the show I was known for, and my niche. Like, even if I haven't released any new South Park videos since November, you did talk about Cartman a few months ago in a top 10 list. Well, I still have fans who walk up to me at cons and say how much they love those videos, even though I haven't reviewed them in like forever. And that I'm also grateful for. From what I understand, like from going to cons, South Park has this mini fandom that's developed, especially amongst Gen Z, which I'm a part of. Ugh. Due to the episodes being genuinely hilarious, and with stuff like 2020 giving us all a chance to rewatch the show and realize, yeah, it was kind of funny. Or just enjoying the biting satire in general, or both for some people. Even me, I grew up watching South Park, and I didn't know anybody else who did until I started cosplaying. Like, at my most recent South Park gathering, we had a Henrietta, and that blew me away. I got my restart with South Park when I was staying at college, and I was sleeping by myself for like the first time in forever, and I was having panic attacks in my sleep. And the only thing that helped me sleep for the night was by putting on Comedy Central reruns, because then I'd think somebody else was there, and I could trick my brain into sleeping. And I realized, wow, the show was better than I remember. The main reason I stopped reviewing South Park is because of a combo of the fact the views for that niche started rapidly declining, like immensely, like it was no longer a viable show, it was hurting my channel to keep reviewing it. In fact, I moved on to other niches and adult cartoons, and the fact that South Park itself stopped producing content for a while, and that meant I was rapidly running out of ideas. And even if I do want to talk about episodes, you guys prefer characters. But the thing is, yeah, even with my newer shows, like the Seth MacFarlane shows, I'm kind of also running out of ideas for those shows, but that's a story for another time. But we're back for the first time in 2 years. For the first time in forever. Why was South Park gone that long? Well, let's discuss. Now, South Park itself has sort of been off the air for a while, and not like Adult Swim off the air. Even though I say off the air, well, it wasn't as in they didn't air anything, as to this day, they air in syndication on Comedy Central, but off the air in terms of producing original content. And even before that, it was having problems. Kind of, like fans would complain. Prior to season 22, they would air 10 episodes a year, which was a step down from them airing 14 episodes a year, as in 7 episodes, then break for a couple of months like a summer break, then 7 more episodes, and that would be the whole season, but still something to look forward to. The 10-episode season would always start during the fall, usually the last week of September, when more political events would happen, and therefore more stuff to mock would happen, such as elections, and then they'd also take the occasional week break during the occasional episode, and then we get a Christmas special, and then the season would go off the air. However, by season 22, they started this whole cycle where they would only air 6 episodes of South Park, often in the spring, since they started a deal with Paramount Plus to produce South Park specials. And one special counts as 2 episodes in production order, so basically you get 1 season and you get 2 episodes. The specials would usually air during the summer, or the fall, or both. Plus, Matt and Trey are busy men. When they're not running South Park, they're running their own production company, Park County, which also produces The Book of Mormon, the Casa Bonita restaurant, and their deepfake company startup, Technology for Voodoo. Plus, they aren't young men, unfortunately, even though they look really good for their age. Both have families and other obligations. Remember, South Park takes 6 days to produce an episode, and that requires a lot of all-nighters and manpower. It's really easy to get burned out doing that, especially if you aren't used to it. Which I say as somebody who does a similar routine to get videos out now, especially since I'm not working. Things got even more complicated when back in late 2019, like almost bordering on 2020, HBO Max swooped in and took the streaming rights of South Park away from Hulu, which broke my heart because Hulu was how I got into South Park, and for years it was how I watched the show. Like, it was my routine that every morning after the episode aired, I would go on Hulu and just watch it there. Hey, that rhymes. Which led to a lawsuit between Paramount Plus and HBO Max that put South Park's future in jeopardy. It didn't help with the current events that were happening in America that Matt and Trey did not want a repeat of what happened to them during season 20, where they predicted the wrong winner for the election, even though honestly most of us did, and therefore the rest of the season suffered as a result, and would suffer as a result for at least 4 more years. Therefore, just to be safe, they put things on hold. Or that, hey, they delayed the premiere of South Park's newest season from the beginning of July to the end of July due to a merger between Paramount and Skydance Media, with even South Park's official Twitter account saying, in response to the press release from Comedy Central about the change in premiere date for South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone said, "This merger is a and it's f***ing up South Park. We were at the studio working on episodes, and we hope the fans get to see them somehow." Honestly, one of the reasons I miss reviewing South Park was the rabbit hole of controversial research I get to look up, because South Park is based on real events, so you have to look up those events and see if it goes into it to make the episode. Because once you do, you find that South Park's a lot more genius than you give it credit for. I told you guys, I love researching inane stuff, it scratches my brain, and South Park kinda gives me that little interest. A few weeks or days ago, depending on when this video comes out, Matt and Trey agreed to a multi-billion-dollar deal with Paramount Plus to move the streaming rights over there once they expire on HBO Max, and to produce at least 50 episodes over the next 5 years. As in, they wouldn't just air the specials on Paramount Plus and then release on HBO Max, they would all be in one place, thankfully. Ugh. I wish Doctor Who would do the same thing. The episodes themselves would air on Comedy Central, and then the next morning they'd start streaming on Paramount Plus, which means South Park is back to its full glory, but at a very immense cost. And not just the fact that Paramount will have to pay Matt and Trey $1 billion for doing this. See, in the United States right now, things kind of suck. It kind of is a major gamble to be an artist or a creative of any kind, since you call out certain people and, well, those in power kind of are spineless, for lack of a better word, or they just can't take criticism. Since there's always the threat of a lawsuit, especially from the dude we currently have in charge. Stephen Colbert, a late-night talk show host who has been on the air for decades, recently got his current show canceled by Paramount, which is also the company that runs South Park. And not just him removed as head of the show, but canceled his entire franchise altogether, despite it having very high ratings and being the highest-rated talk show on TV. And no, it's not because nobody watches talk shows and talk shows are dead. Since with Seth Meyers, his show was getting expensive to produce, so they cut costs by only producing 4 episodes a week rather than 5. So that's why his show can keep surviving. There was a lot Paramount could have done besides outright canceling it, and they didn't. The point is, Colbert's show frequently calls out the current president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, who has done a lot of things many Americans are not proud of, which is why Google is a thing, and recently, he called out Trump for his lawsuit against Paramount, which, in a nutshell, basically, they tried to placate Trump because he brought a lawsuit against them, because apparently how their show 60 Minutes portrayed him, because apparently they, edited it to make Kamala Harris look better than him or something, I don't know.
The president, who is a great man.
A great man.
Great guy. We know he's probably watching, and, we are just reporting.
And just to be clear, we don't agree with him.
No.
They offered him a settlement to drop the lawsuit, with Colbert calling it a big fat bribe, and saying that basically everybody in the industry was calling it a big fat bribe. And many were disappointed with Paramount doing this because they wanted to continue bribing him rather than taking a stand. Another reason for the bribe was because they want the government to look favorably on them when Paramount eventually merges with Skydance, a move which needs to be approved by the FCC, aka the Federal Broadcasting Company, aka an agency run by the federal government. Trump himself said on Truth Social, aka an alt-right Twitter clone, "I absolutely love that Colbert got fired. His talent was even less than his ratings. I hear Jimmy Kimmel is next, has even less talent than Colbert." Yeah, maybe not a good time to be in the industry, I'm so sorry. I'll be honest, when I found out Matt Stone and Trey Parker cut a deal with Paramount after what happened, well, I hate to say this, but part of me thought they finally sold out, and I was very disappointed. The pair are all about calling out other people, taking a stand for what they believe in, and yet they were greedy bastards, or so it seems, who seemed to be caving into corporate interests. I was like, oh god, no. First the dude who plays Mac on It's Always Sunny, and Matt Groening, and now them. You become the people you hated. I always thought it was inspirational how they took their dream, and they didn't care what anybody else thought, and they created this billion-dollar franchise. I mean, South Park itself taught me that when you make a satire, you make fun of everybody, and you call out everybody and anybody, even the side you're on, because that's the only way you're fair. Then I heard about the episode and took one look at it, and well...
Why are you placing these new tariffs on Canada? What are you, some kind of dictator from the Middle East?
A dictator from the Middle East?
Oh boy, was I wrong. I was so wrong. Why did I ever doubt these two? They're awesome. With South Park back after 2 years, a lot has changed in that time, both in the animation world and in the real world. There'd be times where stuff would happen in the real world, and I'd be like, yeah, this would be a good South Park episode, wouldn't it? And I'm reminded about how much I desperately needed it, and just how funny the pair could be. Nostalgia Critic always said that the best episode of South Park isn't the best written or the funniest, but the one we need in the moment. And I agree 100%. I finally get it. The episode Sermon on the Mount follows the town of South Park as they deal with the aftermath of the 2024 presidential election and a bunch of changes that are sweeping our country. For instance, Jesus Christ himself is now allowed in public schools because unfortunately Texas passed a bill saying that teachers must display the 10 Commandments in schools, even though that's a very big violation of church and state.
No, my son said that Jesus was literally at his school.
Then you're probably right to be concerned. It's good you're looking out for your son's education.
Christianity is pushed, and people are too scared to talk about any of it with a rapid fear of getting sued, or any kind of consequences ensuing. And it's all because of the president, who, believe it or not, is not played by Mr. Garrison this time, and they even pointed out.
I'm not doing anything. So you haven't been looting the country and ruling by fear like some Middle Eastern tin pot dictator? No, I've been sitting here watching White Lotus with Rick.
Okay, I should explain. Back in 2015, South Park made fun of Trump via Garrison. Well, kind of, it's complicated. And to be fair, this wasn't the first time they did, or even the second. Trump himself made a cameo as an investor in the entity, ironically funding Mr. Garrison's new IT mode of transportation, a device which was supposed to bankrupt the airlines, and briefly did.
We've been invited for a first look, including Steve Forbes, Steve Jobs, Ted Turner, Donald Trump, Bill Gates, and Yasmin Bleeth.
In 2015, when Trump started going into politics, this was represented by the episode Where My Country Gone, where Canadians start emigrating to South Park when Canadian Trump takes office and his policies begin to negatively affect them.
Geez, how bad can a president be?
If certain people want to leave this country, then let them!
Garrison himself even hates the guy, even though ironically I feel like he'd agree with a lot of his policies. He ends up stopping him by killing him through a very violent method, and he goes into politics himself as Garrison Trump, aka Grump, only for him to realize, yeah, I didn't mean to get elected or to even end up on the ticket, so what the hell am I supposed to do?
Seems like everyone's afraid to speak the truth around here. Well, I'm throwing my hat in and saying I'll figure this thing out.
Now, I might not understand politics.
The thing is, kind of like how Grump thinks in Universe, well, Grump as a character was never supposed to be a full-on character, since Matt Stone and Trey Parker never thought Trump would get anywhere in politics. They didn't even think he'd end up winning the election, so they had no backup plan. And the season where he won, aka season 20, was very, very serialized, meaning this derailed their plans immensely, and to this day, that season is considered one of the worst. But Trump eventually lost in 2020, and they brought back Garrison as just Mr. Garrison, and how he deals with a world in the aftermath of his actions, such as gaining a boyfriend who's actually good for him named Rick, or trying not to rally, which is basically a stand-in for, say, like, drug or alcohol use, where he starts saying a bunch of inflammatory stuff. Spring Break, the last episode to air in 2023, before all the stuff went down, even addressed this, because that was back when Trump started talking about going back into politics, where the show said they wanted to avoid Grump, but what they did with him depended on what happened in the real world. But they did imply they did want Mr. Garrison and Rick to stay together.
I don't want to go through all that again. I just want to stay in South Park with you.
Well, I guess we'll just have to see what happens.
This time around, South Park took the right approach, I feel. The Trump in this episode isn't Grump. It's literally Trump himself, in a sense. As in, like, it's not Garrison playing a Trump XP. It's literally just, like, a Trump XP. They even pointed out in Universe that Grump is no more, and he hasn't existed for a while. And pretty much everything happening is the result of another guy, who, for the record, I'm just gonna call Stump, and you'll soon see why. Hey, that rhymes.
But you got reelected. He hasn't been back to Washington in years. He gave all that up. He's been really good.
Okay, I actually love this take. I've said it before that my problem with most Trump parodies, even in shows where I agree with their messages, is that they always use the exact same jokes. Like, you aren't treading new ground when you make fun of him, you're just parodying what everybody is saying, and you aren't being original. Like, what else could you possibly say that hasn't been said at this point? Oh, wow, he's orange. How groundbreaking. Wow, he's racist. Oh my god, I didn't know that. Like, holy jeez. They even said that with Family Guy. Here, I love this take just because of the timing. As for Grump not being there, well, I do wish they explained it a bit more, but my headcanon is that with little Ricky Bear, Garrison was able to keep himself in check because he realized he needed to fight for the man he loved, and he refused his political party who wanted him to run again, so they just got a guy who was just like him but also not at the same time, to run on the ticket based on Grump's previous platform. Which is why Grump had people who actually did try to keep him on the straight and narrow and failed, but Stump has basically nobody. If you didn't know, they based Stump in this episode on Saddam Hussein, a character from the early seasons of South Park. Saddam Hussein, if you couldn't guess by his name, is based on the real-life Iraqi dictator who you can Google on your own time. Get it? Saddam Hussein, Trump, Stump. And South Park's take on Saddam is always one of my favorite classic characters because it's South Park making fun of the real world in a way where we can all laugh at it. And I get why he isn't used anymore since he's not relevant and the guy who he's based on is dead, but I wish he desperately came back. And they brought him back in spirit. They even played Saddam's villain song, I Can Change, as Stump's leitmotif, leitmotif, one of those two, just to be sure that you get it, like, they are dead serious. South Park's version of Saddam Hussein is a dictator who does crazy things, but he always gets away with it because of his polite attitude. He's always like, hey, relax, guy.
And pictures of you going up all over Canada.
Huh? Oh, that? Don't worry, guy. You just need a rest.
No, I don't need a rest. I want to know what this is all about.
Hey, relax, fella.
He manipulates everybody, even his boyfriend Satan, into doing his bidding via his niceness and Canadian flattery, and he wants nothing more than to take over the world and make everybody bend over, if you catch my drift. He even took over Canada in a similar fashion in the episode Terrence and Phillips Not Without My Anus, hence why their version of Saddam Hussein is a Canadian who speaks in a thick Canadian accent.
I am the Prime Minister of Canada. I can do whatever I...
Uh-oh.
Saddam became a recurring antagonist for the series, especially in the movie, until he was eventually written off in the episode It's Christmas in Canada, where he pretended to be the Prime Minister of Canada, and then once he was ousted for making all kinds of crazy laws, like nulling all adoptions or getting rid of wine or Mounties, and also killing Kenny.
Oh my god! They killed Kenny! You bastards! What the hell is wrong with you?
What kind of prime minister bases his decisions on hate?
Well, the Canadians paraded him around triumphantly, almost like something that happened in real life. And a few years later, the dude he was based on was executed. So yeah, I get it. It would be an extremely poor taste to continue using him, and I feel like many people nowadays don't remember who he is. But I do like it here. Like, if you used to watch South Park, it's a really nice callback. If you didn't, well, it's still kind of funny they're doing this over-the-top thing. Like, I was partially thinking they were gonna reveal at the end it's not really the real guy, it's literally just Saddam himself. Perhaps Saddam's most infamous trait in the show, or his most famous, was his relationship with Satan himself, the devil. Because in South Park, Satan isn't like an evil dude. He's mostly a big softy who just has a job to do, and he's a massive people pleaser, who he spends the entire show going through an arc of self-discovery and confidence, and eventually he breaks up with Saddam to take some time for himself, albeit...
But he makes fun of me and gets away with it. Hey, Satan!
Don't want to right now.
Okay, two things. One, I'm super happy Satan is back since he was one of my favorite characters, and I was majorly disappointed he was killed off. Like, I was really upset we didn't get an episode with him after he dies and goes to heaven. But second, oh my god, poor him! I mean, especially since Saddam is there because of his deal with God, so it's like, would they meet up again? Like, I mean, like, it's sadly in character to kind of have old habits die hard. Like, he's the kind of person who has a type and to always unfortunately go for that type, even subconsciously, and a lot of people do that even if you know it's bad. We know that his type is unfortunately stronger looking men until he realizes too little too late, like Saddam or Kevin. Like, I feel so bad, like he just broke that pattern and he's right there.
No, I need counseling. You remind me more and more of this other guy I used to date. Like, a lot. Like, you guys are exactly alike.
And the thing is, in one episode, he actually did date a guy who was nice, but not good for him, named Chris. Not Steven Chris, just normal Chris. Like, I have Satan back, but at what cost, guys? His feelings? Like, I want to help him so badly. Of course, the townsfolk of South Park are upset at what's been happening to their world. For instance, Jesus is forced to be in school despite, separation of church and state, to the point where he's trying to get people to worship him and everything. And not batting an eye at PC Principal.
PC Principal?
Power Christian principle, yes.
Whatever his name is, threatens to expel Stan for not accepting Jesus as his Lord and Savior, which is kind of ironic. If you watched earlier seasons South Park, Jesus was one of the most level-headed, normal people in town, and he was one of the straight men whose voices was desperately needed when people needed to listen. With a point being made that while he did want people to worship him and be Christian, well, he did also want them to live their lives via just following his teachings, because that's the true way you be a Christian. Not by just worshipping how he died, or just spending all your time and energy praising him and going to church. It was to the point where even Bill Donahue, a Catholic, thought Jesus was too soft.
Kill him! What? He goes against the church, he must die! Alright, that does it, Bill. I'm pretty sure that killing Jesus is not very Christian.
Still one of my all-time favorite lines and all-time favorite episodes. And it turns out there's a reason. In order to get a voter base, Stump frequently acts like a Christian, but he acts decidedly non-Christian as you can get behind closed doors. Like, he holds bikini parties, he's eating McDonald's cheeseburgers, those aren't kosher. He's literally in a relationship with Satan himself, all that good stuff. And at some points, like, he abuses Satan. Like, I feel so bad for him.
I can't even see anything, it's so small. God.
And he even threatened Jesus Christ himself into a lawsuit to keep him quiet, with Jesus telling the townsfolk through gritted teeth to just play along and you won't get hurt.
You guys saw what happened to CBS? Yeah, well, guess who owns CBS? Paramount. You really want to end up like Colbert? You guys gotta stop being stupid.
I don't want to eat the bread. Is the bread a lie? Is it like the cake? But oh no, they got to him too. Weirdly, I do like this approach. For one, because usually when South Park would talk about Jesus, it'd be like after he died in the show so he couldn't come back and stuff. Like during the Passion episode, he was canonically dead, so I like how they couldn't use him there. Here, he's alive and they're still abusing him. It's terrible. Plus, whenever South Park uses Grump, they normally reserved him for bigger things, and outside of like 1 or 2 episodes, his actions did not really affect the townsfolk. They just affected the country. Or they did affect the townsfolk, but in a more positive way, like when he used his laser to get rid rid of the witch who was plaguing Halloween. With the exception of the pangolin or the grocery store scene, it would normally just be one person in particular. Like when he used his tweets to borderline stalk Tweak and Craig for plain just existing at times, or when he got back at PC Principal for firing him via making him do crazy acts, or even when he did try to help Randy in his own way, even if that meant getting him hooked back on weed. So it's cool that to make Stump such an effective villain, they have to make everybody afraid of him, even the people who would be willing to vote for him, or even the one person who'd probably be willing to stand up to him or try to talk some sense into him, and make it so his policies actually do affect them, like their way of saying, like, yeah, if this were real, this would actually happen. Even Cartman is upset with Stump, and you know you're screwed when even Cartman hates your guts and thinks what you're doing is wrong. Thanks to Stump's new laws, NPR has been defunded, and NPR was his favorite show, since he thinks National Public Radio is a comedy show in and of itself, but hey, at least his interests align with the rest of us for once.
The air. I mean, who the hell does this president think he is? The government can't cancel the show. I mean, what show are they going to cancel next? It was seriously the best show.
It shows pretty nicely that even the people who voted for this guy would probably still be affected by his policies in a negative way. You ever heard of the phrase, leopards ate my face? The only complaint I really do have is I do wish they had Kyle and Kenny in the episode a bit more, since a big point they make is Stump's policies affected everyone, so how's it affecting them? Like, I don't even think Kyle talks once, honestly. Like, the scene where PC Principal says, like, Stan, you need to accept Jesus, honestly should have been Kyle when you think about it, because yeah, Stan's a Christian, so he like accepts Jesus to start with, but Kyle is Jewish and he's been bullied before for being Jewish, and Jesus is a Jew too, canonically, so it's kind of like, I don't know, I just feel like that'd be funnier, like, Kyle, you need to like get over yourself or something. Like, it sounds horrible how I'm putting it, but this is South Park, they can make it work. Like, I don't even think he talks once in the episode. Kenny gets like a line or two though. I guess with him, maybe they didn't want a repeat of episodes like Cupid E or Stunning and Brave, where he's the only one who gets targeted for speaking out, but I am curious what Kyle would think of this guy, especially in relation to other political stuff going on. But I feel like it would probably be its own episode, similar to Cupid E. Like, there's so much with that topic, it needs to be its own episode rather than a quick joke, even if it's just like Matt Stone mouthpiecing as Kyle like they did before. And it's so controversial that South Park would 100% be able to tackle it in a fitting manner. And as for Kenny, well, yeah, many of Stump's policies would of course affect him too, especially because of budget cuts. Maybe Kenny doesn't have health insurance anymore because there were cuts to Medicaid. Maybe his sister can't watch Sesame Street anymore because of what's been going on, I don't know. Maybe his family can't go eat at a food bank, like, anything, really. But honestly, we should talk about the elephant in the room. I was right. I called it. You all were thinking that, and you all knew it. I called it. See, back in 2024, Matt Stone and Trey Parker said they weren't going to cover Trump, which is partially why South Park did not air until now. They didn't want to cover the election, they just wanted to skip over it, and they had problems with Paramount, saying in an interview with Vanity Fair, we tried to do South Park through 4 or 5 presidential elections, and it is such a hard thing, too. It's such a mind scramble, and it seems like it would take outsized importance, Stone says. Obviously, it's important, but it kind of takes over everything, and we just have less fun, Parker adds. I don't know what more we could possibly say about Trump. The thing is, when I made my Grump video, I said they were lying through their teeth, just because they've said that before a few times, and they've done it each and every time. Like, they say like, oh, we won't do it, and then something interesting happens that they can use, and they always give in. Or they just say it to be like, no, and then they still end up doing it. Even if it's just like a quick episode. Like, yeah, Put It Down was still about him, even though it was a Tweak and Craig episode. So why would 2025, aka his second presidential term, be any different? And hey, I was right. Maybe I was incorrect about them using Grump to do this, but they still made fun of the real guy. Still, the story gets a bit better. See, the whole episode is just South Park doing what they do best, making fun of someone in a way that isn't politically correct and hoping they get spotted, and then hoping they speak out so they can continue making fun of you and realizing you don't have a spine. Unsurprisingly, the Trump administration saw the episode, and unsurprisingly, it wasn't very popular with the guy himself or the administration, with the administration releasing a statement saying, the left's hypocrisy truly has no end. For years, they have come after South Park for what they labeled as offensive content, but suddenly they are praising the show. Just like the creators of South Park, the left has no authentic or original content, which is why their popularity continues to hit record lows. This show hasn't been relevant for over 20 years and is hanging on by a thread with uninspired ideas in a desperate attempt for attention. President Trump has delivered on more promises in just 6 months than any other president in our country's history, and no 4th-rate show can derail Trump's hot streak. Okay, let's dissect this. Yeah, I immensely disagree. Like, immensely. Maybe South Park isn't as big as it once was, but it's still pretty big if you're talking about this unimportant show. Like, if it was that unimportant, you wouldn't be talking about it. Heck, it's how I met and bonded with a few of my friends. Like, talking about South Park, going to the sing-along, like, you don't understand how big this show is. It's like saying nobody's cough anymore. I'll be honest, yes, I did think South Park was one of those shows nobody watched but me growing up, but considering my videos, yeah, apparently a lot of people do still like it, and a lot of people do still talk about it. Plus, I think it's ironic on a few accounts. Like, you were perfectly okay with South Park making fun of the thing you didn't like, and all of a sudden when they start talking about you don't like it, and suddenly it's irrelevant. Like, honestly, being mocked by South Park means either you screwed up immensely, or they like you immensely, so it's like, either or. But also, this is ironic for many reasons. Like, really? This is one of those times where if the people being mocked just said absolutely nothing, or at least said nothing publicly, well, it would probably just go away and be one of those things we bring up on Twitter and mock for a couple of weeks. But because they did, and because of how it was done, well, everybody knows it exists, and everybody knows about it, and now everybody wants to check it out on both sides. You basically just gave your biggest critic free advertising, I hate to say. Like, they are the only show on television right now that are talking about you and getting away with it. So it's like, you really should have said nothing. And considering how South Park can be, like considering their feuds they've had with people like Tom Cruise or the Church of Scientology or even Bill Donahue, they are never going to let this go. So they'll pretty much spend their whole season, if not the whole show, making fun of Stump or using him as a recurring bad guy in some way, shape, or form. Second, again, I like how it makes fun of their supporters, who think South Park is only good when it makes fun of the people they don't like. And this goes for both sides. Something I've noticed with South Park is that many people who tend to watch it don't really think it through. Like, South Park is made to make fun of everybody, but every episode does have an overall message. Like, they will make fun of both sides, but yes, there is a thesis to it. And they don't understand that. Or they quote mine very specific scenes to show that South Park agrees with them when they probably don't if you actually do have context or watch the episode. Pretty much every couple of months on Twitter, me and Blooms will find that one loser who finds that scene of Cartman going into the girl's bathroom by saying he's a girl to mean that the show is endorsing transphobia.
Listen, Eric, you must know why we can't have you in the girl's bathroom.
All I know is I'm transgender, and you can't make me go to the bathroom with the cisgengers.
With a what?
But if you were to actually watch South Park, or at least the episode that the scene comes from, which is the sissy for reference, you know that's not what they're saying at all. They tend to use Cartman as an opposing party, aka somebody you're not supposed to agree with, somebody you're not supposed to like, and or somebody you're not supposed to emulate. Like, Cartman, he killed hundreds of people just because he was afraid that black people were going to take over the world. Like, why is this your hero? Plus, the episode outright says that trans people, or just people in general, deserve to use whichever bathroom they're comfortable with because they're just going to use the bathroom. They're not going to do anything bad. Or have a bathroom of their choice, even if it's just their own little private bathroom. Even Garrison, aka the most outrageous and sensitive dude out there, made the point that if Cartman was an actual trans child who was struggling with his gender identity, he would 100% be fine letting him use the girl's bathroom. The only reason he's not doing it is because he knows Cartman and he knows he's gonna cry wolf until he gets what he wants.
Normal is extremely offensive to people who aren't in that group.
But this isn't a hurting, confused child we're talking about. This is Eric Cartman.
Nobody else is gonna know that.
Plus, Cartman is just doing it to be Cartman. Like, Cartman regularly takes advantage of causes to further his own goals. Like, when he pretended to have Tourette's in order to get away with saying whatever he wanted about Jews, or when he pretended to be disabled so he can be in the Special Olympics and win a prize, even though he doesn't realize it might be the Special Olympics for disabled people, but it's still an athletic event nonetheless. Anyhow, I'm getting off track, but South Park has critiqued these types of fans in the past, so this is nothing new. With one episode specifically being about how people take the wrong messages from books and movies, especially them, when that wasn't what they were going for in the first place, and conveniently, it just happens to align with them. Heck, I've even done it a few times myself, if only because, yeah, I know South Park isn't that deep, and there are times where I disagree with them, but I do still respect them. This episode, Sermon on the Mount, was a good way for them to be like, no, we don't support you, and we never will, and if you don't get that for your fixed goal, you're never going to get that, but no, we do not like this person. Finally, there's the method to how this happened. The deal with Paramount was finalized the day before the new season aired, meaning, well, imagine what a PR nightmare this would be like more than it already is. Even the episode has acknowledged that there's a great big chance that by making this episode, Matt and Trey might lose their jobs. Like, they might get their show canceled, they might get sued, they might get their network sued, but they still did it. They knew the risks and they still did it. Which, again, as a creative, I highly respect them, like, immensely. Like, even shows like The Simpsons nowadays would never do this. Remember, when I first started out, I was scared of offending anybody or saying the wrong thing. It was you guys who told me that I needed to be stronger because South Park is strong, and so I have. Because, honestly, YouTube is the voice I use to scream with. But with Matt and Trey, they've never feared, even if they've had reasons to. The Church of Scientology stalked them. They got in debt for it. People felt like there was a terrorist attack against them. But whenever something like this happened, they've never had to fear their show getting outright canceled. At worst, an episode would just be pulled. Here, there's a big possibility something might happen to South Park. I mean, I doubt it'll be canceled, but even the episode acknowledged it, with Cartman and Butters crying over the ending credits about how they don't know how things will turn out, but they hope they're good.
Oh, I think I might be going.
Yep, sweet death is about to come. I love you, man.
But yeah, I doubt this will cancel South Park, or even, like, it'll get Matt and Trey fired, because the two of them are so attached to the show, like, they've voiced most of the characters, and they're pretty much the ones who created that. It's like getting rid of Seth MacFarlane on Family Guy. Like, you just can't do that. And it has put Paramount into a catch-22, especially considering what happened with Colbert. Either they cancel South Park and they get a ton of bad PR and lose a lot of sponsorships, or they lose out on a lot of money because their deal with Matt and Trey is finalized. Or they just drop South Park and Matt and Trey take South Park somewhere else. Or they keep South Park and keep getting a lot of negative publicity. Not to mention, South Park is the biggest show on Comedy Central, like, ever. It's what put it on the map. Like, Comedy Central nowadays, outside of like 1 or 2 shows, is basically dead, but South Park is the thing they're known for. Like, imagine them not having that. They'd be like if Nickelodeon no longer had SpongeBob. And I can't wait to see what we get. Anyhow, yeah, I guess that's it. The new season was pretty good. Can't wait to see what else South Park cuts up the rest of the season. And we're officially back, guys. Any South Park topics I've yet to get to that you want to see, comment down below. Anyhow, bye!